Now, Donna Adelson was found guilty last week, and I can't wait to get some thoughts from both of you, but particularly you, Dave. You're connected to this case. Let's play SOT 6, and I want to get your reaction.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself.
All right, Dave, let us have it. What's your response to that? Now, of course, we've done a million trials between you, Mark, and I. Sometimes they react, sometimes they don't, but you're close to this case, so tell us your thoughts.
Justice served. I didn't see any waterworks there, Matt. I saw a woman crying out saying that she is innocent. Actually, the jury foreperson said that she said, "You're convicting an innocent woman." This was her way, essentially, of lashing out. This was not a sad woman. This was a woman who's angry because she's never been held accountable for anything in her life before. And now her son is in prison for life. She's going to prison for life. And her daughter, Wendy, is next. So I don't feel any sorrow for her. I don't feel any feeling for her other than good, you got justice, and more to come.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Mark, let's talk a little bit about client control. That's a concept that most viewers have no idea what that means. You are famous for some of the best client control in the business. When you have a defendant like that, you get a client who's already been admonished at least once by the court for having outbursts. What do you think? Client control failure? Just her last gasp? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've often wondered, and I've got my father's portrait over my shoulder when he was a hard-charging prosecutor like you two, and then was my partner for many years. And he and I always would talk about why I am insistent that during a trial that there is no kind of show of obvious emotion. You don't act out. You don't do anything along those lines if you can at all help it. But I understand once the verdict comes, just this kind of being aghast, so to speak. I've been there, and you two probably have had the same thing. I've been there when somebody has testified, and it is the hardest thing in the world to control yourself as somebody is saying something that you just know is a bald-faced lie. But in this case, the last thing I'm going to do is second guess her. If it is true, and Dave and I talked about this, Matt, I don't know if you've heard the same thing. If it's true that she was offered a time-served deal and she just got convicted and is facing life, that's got to be one of the great gambles made and lost of all time, that at that age you turned down time served and you got life. If it's untrue, it still makes a apocryphal story, but at the same time, I don't think that was acting. I think she honestly believed that she was going to be acquitted. That's my read from the cheap seats.
So Dave, we had, again, famously, we had evidence in that where she was, she wanted to have her 2 Jewish grandkids dress up like Hitler and convert to Christianity, and she called them gibbers. And this is a woman who hated the victim. So in light of that, is that emotional reaction in your mind, or is that theater, or is that just her final F you to the jury? What do you think?
She looks at the jury with contempt. She looks at Tallahassee with contempt. And this is her way of saying, "You hayseeds, how dare you convict me? I could buy and sell each and every one of you." That's the interpretation I got from this. And as far as what Mark said, yeah, Mark and I had discussed this, but the time served offer supposedly went to Katie Magbanawa, the shot girl girlfriend of Charlie Adelson. She turned that down. Now she's in prison for life. There was just a rumor that there was an offer to Donna to give her time served in exchange for turning on Wendy, which was never going to happen. And the state attorney's office denied that deal was ever proposed. So she was going to go down for it because she and Charlie were the ones who set this whole thing up. Remember, here's a woman who thought she was so smart that she laundered money. Literally, she took money laundering literally. She put it in a washer, dryer, and it came out still soggy and moldy. So not the smartest criminal, but she thought she was. And I think that reaction from her was finally having her day of reckoning upon us.
So in 1 minute, Dave, break down, what do you think is going to happen with Wendy? Everybody wants to know that. Are they going to take a run at her? And if so, what do you think the most persuasive evidence is against Wendy?
Wendy was at the crime scene. Why? She had to drive out of her way to get there. She was on the block. She didn't inquire into her kids, who were supposedly in the care of the person whose house was now covered with police tape. Didn't care. She tried to set up her boyfriend, allegedly, at the time, asking him, even after they broke up, when are you leaving? When are you going? And Donna had Danny's make, model, and license plate of his car in her planner 2 years after the divorce. How did she get that? I'll give you one guess. So that's just some of the evidence against Wendy.
So Mark, in California, which is different than Florida, I actually looked this up. Florida, for an accessory after the fact, has a 30-year sentence, accessory after the fact to murder. In California, Dave, this might be my news to you coming from Florida, California has a 36-month maximum for accessory after the fact to murder with a 50% good time work time. So the most you can do actual custody time for an accessory after the fact is 18 months custody time. So by the time the trial rolls around, that's almost always CTS or credit time served. What do you think, Mark?
That's
Wendy's case?
16-2-3, last time I looked, which means the presumption is 2 years, you do one.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, for an aggravated accessory after the fact to murder, the maximum you're going to do is 18 months. But Mark's right. The sentencing guidelines basically call for, unless there's aggravating features, you got to do midterm, which is 1 year. It's pretty incredible, huge difference. But in my view, Mark, Wendy right now seems like the toughest of the bunch. Any thoughts? I could see you defending somebody like Wendy.
I think there's a reason that they have not brought the case against her. Dave is much more into the weeds than I am, but I always, I default to my experience, which is if they have not brought her in, I mean, a smart prosecutor in my mind would have brought charges against her and her mother at the same time. I always say the difference between the mafia and the prosecution is that the mafia spares the women and children, but the most prosecutors will bring them together, hoping that somebody will kind of pull the ripcord and say, okay, I give up, I'll take the fall. And that wasn't done here. This is much more, the serial nature of this is very unusual in my experience, at least. The idea of going one by one just is very highly unusual and is not the usual case when you're prosecuting murder cases.